It is doing Infinite Campus.
Well, like, I can't access, well, let me access my grades.
Tell your advisor. Something's going on. You should be able to right now. Okay, so in your, right before the 1.5 stuff, there's a little summary of Unit 1. Okay, and this is like all of the important stuff all crammed in one spot. Okay, so I am not going to let you use your textbook on your test on Monday. Okay, but I'm going to let you use 1 page of notes. Okay, so if you want to take notes off of the sheet of paper or put examples down on that sheet of paper, you're welcome to. Okay, so no textbook, just paper that you've written on. Okay, so things you might want to consider writing down are the symmetry stuff, if you don't remember how to do those. All right, so taking a look at this, what should we do together? Okay, so it's asking us to graph these without using a calculator. Okay, so number 1, do I need to do that one with you guys? Do you want to just do all of these together or what? Sure? Stick to number 2? Just skip? So just do all of them? Okay, that works. I'm going to do quick little sketches then. Okay, so for number 1, what kind of function do I have? What is it going to look like? Standard form, it is a linear function. It looks like a straight line. So I think the easiest way to graph that one is you can just do the cover method and kind of do your intercepts. If I have a pencil, that would be helpful. Okay, so if I cover the y, my x-intercept would be 6/4, which is 3/2, so 1.5, right? And then if I cover the x, my y-intercept is 6/2, which is 3. Okay, what about number 2? What kind of function is number 2? What does it look like?
It's like
It is not. That's if the x is in the denominator.
Oh, I thought it was there. Just.
So what kind of function is number 2? There's no asymptote. Asymptotes only exist when the x's are in the denominator. So it is just a straight line. Okay? So this form would be exactly if I divided both pieces, it would be y equals -1/2 x, and then 4 divided by 2 is 2. That's exactly the same equation. Okay, so this would have a y-intercept of 2, a slope of 1/2, so you go down 1 over 2. Something like that. Okay, now what is number 3? Okay, number 3 has an x in the bottom, so that one is one of the hourglass ones. Okay, if I have a +1 at the end of any function, what happens? It goes up 1. Okay, so it's going to take that horizontal asymptote up 1 unit. Okay, so what'll happen is so here's your asymptote. I'll draw a dotted line. You got a vertical one right on the y-axis, and it's going to do that hourglass thing, like that. The asymptotes. The asymptote's on just 1 over x. How do you know? Well, because I know the parent function is 1 over x, and it just hugs those two, and so it's going to stay the same unless they start adding like negatives in there or absolute value.
Is there a vertical dotted line at 1, or is that 0?
It's at 0. I just drew it slightly off so you could tell that was there, but it is at 0. Okay, what about number 4? What does a cube root look like?
Like sideways.
Good. A sideways John Travolta on a side. If you have -2 inside the radical, what direction is it moving? To the right. Good. So this is going to go to the right 2, and then John Travolta on a side. Remember that he always starts up like that in the first
2, right?
Oh, 2, yeah. But I drew 3. Pretend I drew 2. Thank you. I don't know where I even got 3 from. Okay, now number 5, this one is a little bit trickier, okay? This is not a parent function. There's technically 2 translations happening here. It starts as a x squared, okay? So x squared as a parabola. Hey, you guys, if you're going to sit together, can you guys at least pay attention? If not, I'm going to separate you. Okay, thanks. Okay, so x squared normally starts as a parabola, right? Okay, so then if I have minus 2, what does that do to any function? It goes down 2 units. Okay, so we got a parabola that's down 2 units, and then I have absolute value. So what does an absolute value function on the outside of it do? It tips anything that's below the x-axis above, so it reflects it. Okay, so what it's going to look like. So imagine. Okay, so first let's do x squared minus 2 just looks like this, right? Okay, so now if I do the absolute value of that, the absolute value is going to take all the stuff that's below the x-axis and reflect it over. Okay, so what it'll end up looking like is, it does look very W-y. Okay, and if you wanted to get more precise, you could find the x-axis, find the x-intercepts by doing what? Plugging 0 into y. So we could probably do that. Explain how I got that W effect. Yeah. Okay, so does it make sense how I got the black function? The one I drew that was just down 2.
An absolute value.
Okay, true, but the absolute value of x is a v. But it's x squared. So what's happening on this function is there's 2 translations. There's a minus 2, which takes it down, and then there's an absolute value effect on it. So you have to take that u and do a kind of a reflection over the y, or the x-axis. So it's a very tricky one. Okay. Very possibly, yes. Very possibly. Okay, number 6. Do you guys remember what x to the 2/3 looks like? I consider it like a, you know when you're little and you drew like birds in the sky? You know what I mean? That's what it looks like. X to the 2/3. Well, not really m because it doesn't go back down, but it, you know, it's like the sideways parabolas but reflected over itself. But it kind of reminds me of the bird. You didn't draw those birds in the sky?
No.
You know, like these ones? Oh, those ones?
You know, when you drew the birds and she's going like this, and I'm like, that's like an M.
Yeah, kind of M-y. Anyway, so that's what it looks like. It's that bird thing going on. That's what it reminds me of anyways. And then if I have minus 1 at the ends. Yeah. Yeah. It's the kind of birds that I draw. So down 1. So there. See the bird?
Never really drew birds.
You never drew those in art class? Those are the only kind of birds I could draw. What? Okay, what about number 7? What does number 7 look like? This was a very simple function. There's no translations. It is just an x squared. It's a parabola. If you just solve for y, it is a parabola that goes directly through the origin. Okay, what about number 8? Y squared. What does that look like?
Sideways parabola.
Nice, yes.
Nice.
Sideways parabola. So y squared is a sideways parabola. What about number 9? I think so. Okay, what about x cubed minus 1? Just move in front of point. He's fine. He doesn't learn.
I don't have the best vision.
That's all right. You're fine. Okay, so number 9. cubic minus 1, so down 1. Good there? Piece of cake. So,
Do we have to
what?
graph them? Do we graph them quick like that, or do we have to graph
Yeah.
them exactly?
I think that's pretty good.
Because I've been doing it like.
Really exact? Well, good. I think that's better.
Okay.
What's number 10?
Number 10 is which one is not a function? So which one does not pass the vertical line test?
9.
8.
I mean 8.
8. Yeah, only 8.
That was right next to 9.
Sure, Clint, sure.
I only have a question about number 4.
3 is technically a function. It does pass the vertical line test.
Number 4, I didn't understand.
Number 4 is a cube root, so it's a John Travolta on its side.
Yeah,
If you have minus 2, it's just simply moved to the right 2.
I just moved over by 2.
Yep.
Okay. Good to know that.
What about number 11? I have A, B, C, D. Do I need to do any of these problems? Or are these easy? Finding equations. I think there's 40 some. So you have to have finished. So just do them since you're gonna have to do them anyway. Okay. I just thought you might want me because we only have like a half an hour of time left. Oh, actually, we almost have an hour. Okay, let's just keep going. Maybe we can finish this. This we go till 10:54. Let's finish this. Then you guys won't have homework. Okay, so the line. We're going too fast. We're only on number 11. No, you're just not focused. 2/3 x plus 1. Okay, so if I ask you for an equation and they give you a point and a slope, I would throw it straight into slope-intercept form. There's no math involved in that. You can leave it that way, and I would leave it that way. I would not solve for y because what if you made a little simple mistake with the fraction? Just leave it that way. Okay, how do I do question B? What do I have to do if they are talking about parallel lines? Find the slope first, okay? So maybe some of you guys can look at this and just see what the slope is, but -1/2, okay? Okay, so since we're getting different answers, let's go with doing it algebraically. Oh, so I would subtract the 2x and then divide by 4. So, oh, so the m is -1/2. I don't know. I thought you just threw out something random. So parallel, we're going to use the slope of -1/2. So it's going to be y minus 3 is equal to -1/2 x plus 1. Okay, and I will forewarn you that these kind of questions are on the test, and they will ask you both scenarios where they just ask you for the equation, and then they also ask you for a specific form. So make sure you know the different forms. Okay. How would we do one that passes through the origin? So passing through -1, 3, and then also passes through the origin. Yes.
How did you get a slope of -1/2? It's parallel. Are parallel equations have the same slope?
Yes. Because I got a slope of -1/2.
You could just do y equals.
Yeah, you have to solve for the y. You can't just take the 2 out because it's in standard form. You have to put in a slope. Y equals -1/3 x. How did you get that?
How'd you get what?
One's -1/3. Your slope was -1/3. Then you'd go down 1/3.
You're really close. You're close. I think you said it backwards though, because if you're at the origin and your point is -1, 3, the slope between those two is what? 3/1. -3/1. So the slope would be y equal. So your equation would be y equals -3x. Okay, so if you think about this equation or this question, if you know something goes through the origin, you also know its y-intercept. So what's the y-intercept if it goes right through the origin? 0. So if we're thinking of the form y equals mx plus b, we know the b value is 0. Hey.
Sorry to interrupt.
Do you know how to get rid of the toolbar at the bottom? Because they're in the app and they can't maneuver through.
I've had the same problem, and it seems that I don't know how to fix it. But I've had kids fix it. See, they can't access it through there. So I don't know. Some kids will be able to do something like this.
Yeah, we spend more time trying to figure out how to use it.
Well, that's because it's brand new. As soon as we get it figured out, it'll
It
be
starts
fine.
out that way, yeah.
No, it's not
Same thing with
true. All last year,
Yeah, all last year, we
was just like,
You guys are such babies. You didn't even open a
you know what
tablet ever.
happened? Last
Because they
year,
never worked.
who wants a printout? Every goddamn kid raised their hand. Print it out.
Good for you.
Okay.
Let's finish our math. Aren't you happy I didn't bring out tablets this year?
I am.
See?
We could be doing
Yes,
this
sir.
on that one note or whatever.
Would that be the same as if you put y minus 3? Why don't you just put?
Oh,
Yeah, absolutely.
Just
Same form, just use the slope of 3. Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
You're
Okay, what about D? Perpendicular to the x-axis. So if this is the x-axis, perpendicular would be what kind of a line?
Opposite.
Can't we just
Wait,
do
opposite.
inverse? Can't we just do y equals?
Yeah, right? So, well, no. Okay, so So this is the x-axis. What's perpendicular?
Y-axis.
Vertical, right? A vertical line, right? Do we all agree? This is the x-axis. Y. So it would be an x equals equation.
X equals negative.
X equals negative 1, yeah. Right?
Yeah.
Perpendicular to the x-axis would be a vertical line. Vertical lines are x equals. Perpendicular. Okay. Number 12, without using a calculator, find the points of intersection. Okay, so how do I do number 12 algebraically? Set them equal. Okay, so then I have to do x plus 5 equals 2x plus negative 2x. So 3x equals 3. So did everybody get x equals 1? So by the way, if you guys need to be showing your work on these and not writing down x equals 1.
It really hasn't been any work.
You need to show your work. You guys really need to get used to it because on the AP test you have to justify by using work. You can't just say the answer is 1.
We have to do proofs in here.
You'll get a point for right, but you will not get points for proving.
I've never done
Not proofs.
I've never done a proof.
We did that
since.
and like.
Well, you don't have to do a proof. You just have to show your work.
I did that.
Which is proving it.
No, I had geometry freshman year with Mrs. Bolt.
I did it 1 year.
Oh man.
I have not used one since. I don't know what they're for. Well, I know what they're for, but
Yeah, that's geometry.
so I got x equals 1.
That's what I got.
So you got 1, 6.
1 and 6.
How
So
did you get
once you get
six? Oh, you
this
plug it
x, you plug it in, and you can plug it into either of the two equations. It doesn't matter which one. You should get the same value.
What's an intersection?
I would never. When you take the test, you cannot do mental math. You got to show it. You really have to show it. Okay, what about number 13? This one I chose to do a different method on.
You do a
The cross-out
substitution or the elimination.
The elimination method, yeah. Okay, so because it's set up in the standard form and it's like lined up just perfectly for elimination, yeah, you can completely use elimination. So to eliminate, do we want to eliminate x's or y's? It doesn't matter. Y's. Okay, so we're going to add, right? So if we add, the x squared plus x squared is 2x squared. And 9 plus 9 is 18. So at this point now, Clint, you could say x is plus or minus 3, right?
So
I
piecewise
always
is just
forget the plus or minus.
like piecewise is just like a bunch of different equations in one.
5 by 2.
Mhm,
Which is
yeah.
your
Yep.
extra
Bunch of
On the same
pieces.
plane.
So then to find the corresponding y values, you have to plug these in. So I'm gonna plug 3 in. I know they're gonna be the same two values. So 9 minus y squared is equal to 9. What's my y? 0. So these technically two. I can say plus or minus 3 and 0. They're okay with that. Do I need to do the 14? Really?
Please.
Hmm?
I don't know how much space to leave. I have to go back and do the blank on the side.
Oh my gosh. 1 minus x squared plus 2x plus
And then you
1.
just plug in the.
Not on A. Which one are you on?
On
Oh,
13 still. Yeah.
sorry. Yes. Yes.
I'm slow. I'm sorry.
You're okay.
You just plug in the 3 back
Yes.
and into one of them, and you'll.
Right.
Wait, so
So what? So this is this
where'd you
one.
get the equals from?
I'm just
you
simplifying.
combine them?
Yeah, you just combine your like
How'd you get-
terms.
wait. Yeah. So you're supposed to be plus 2.
Yeah, sorry.
2x.
Maybe I should zoom in. I thought maybe my writing would be better.
Would that just be y equals?
It's technically, if you were going to label it, we would have to label it as f of x plus g of x equals that. Mm-hmm.
No.
So x squared plus 2x.
Where did you get
Negative
the
2.
plus 2? Oh, yeah.
1 plus 1.
There we go. Yep.
So how do I do f of g? G. Okay, so you plug this one into that one, right?
Which one and which one?
So the g goes into the f. So 1.
F.
Mm-hmm. It's always the second one goes into the first one. It's like
So the-
backwards.
In parentheses, goes out.
Right. This goes into that.
Bless you.
So if I simplify this, and just so you guys know, if they're asking me this question on the AP test, can I leave it like that?
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely you can leave it like that.
Why?
Okay, they don't ever ask you to simplify. Okay, so if you are done, if all you have left to do is simplify, and you're on a free response question, you do not have to keep going.
I was totally starting to simplify.
Okay, and it's really heavy because when you go to college, they're going to make you simplify. If you wrote this, they'd be like, nope, you're not done. -1 because it's unsimplified. So I'm always going to simplify stuff, but just be aware on the test, you don't have to, and you'll save time that way. Okay, so even on the test tomorrow or Monday that I give you, you don't have to simplify on our tests, but I'm always going to do it. Okay. So just in case you wanted to see this simplified, it would be 4x squared and then 4, so -4 minus 1. So that's what you end up with.
How do you get minus?
Because you have to distribute the negative through after you FOIL. So you FOIL and then distribute the negative. So that one would be a really good one not to simplify because very common mistakes on that one. Right? Yeah. Okay, what about C? How do you do C?
So you put F inside of G.
And then you put 2. So I always think that it's easiest when you have a whole number like this to plug in to just start by plugging the number in. So this is one I would say there probably is not going to be a lot of work for and you can do mentally. Okay, so if I plug 2 into the F, 1 minus 2 squared, so 1 minus 4 is -3. Now I take -3 and plug that into the G. -5. Okay, so I don't like not showing work, but I think that's one where you could get away with not showing work. And on an AP test, I would probably try really hard to try to show some kind of work. Okay, number 15, find the zeros without using a calculator. How do I do these? Okay, you just set it equal to 0.
Calculator, tell me that's-
There's a calculator portion and a non-calculator. It's half. So questions like this you would be expected to be able to do without a calculator.
Find the zeros.
Find
So
the
you just
zeros,
set it
you
equal
set it
to
equal to 0 and solve it. So how do you do this one? What's that? I don't want to subtract 12. This one is actually going to be a factoring question.
Yeah, so it adds up to 7.
So you factor it. Okay, and you can do the easy method of factoring because we have a 4th degree, and then the middle term is half of that. And then the last term is a constant.
What if it was?
That'll only work if that happens. If it was x to the 4th and then x cubed, and then a constant, you would not be able to factor that. Okay, so the middle term has to be half. You can't divide by x squared. You can never divide by an x of any kind.
Squared minus
Because you don't know if it's 0.
x squared.
So x squared minus 3 and x squared minus 4. Okay, so what are my technically 4 solutions? What does the x squared minus 3 give you? Close. Plus or minus the square root. You have to take the square root of 3. And then for the other one, the square root of 4, plus or minus 2. Okay, so be careful. If you're doing too much stuff mentally and making mental mistakes, that's not good. Okay? Because the square root of 4 is 2. 16, how do I do this?
Plug it in the calculator.
You can't use a calculator.
Plug 0.
You set 0, you set both of them equal to 0. So you set both pieces equal to 0, and then you're going to test the intervals and see if the numbers you get.
Do you solve for both?
I'm going to go 0 is equal to 2x minus 1, and we're going to solve that one. 1/2. Okay, so when I get a solution, I'm going to look at this and say, well, is that in that interval? Is 1/2 less than 0? No, so since that's not in the interval, it's not a solution. Okay, so then I'm going to do the other equation. X squared minus 4 equals 0. For that, I get plus or minus 2. So I'm testing two numbers. Is 2 greater than 0? Yes. Is negative 2? No. So only, we can't do the negative one. X is only 2.
And you have to check it between
2,
both intervals?
0. Yeah, you could write 2, 0, yeah. So just so you guys know, you can write the answer for zeros as x equals, just the way I have it, or you can write them as ordered pairs. Both are fine.
And so you just test it in the top one?
Well, I tested this one in the bottom one because I used the bottom equation to get those numbers.
Oh.
Right? You don't know how to do it? How do you, who remembers?
Switch the X and the Y.
Yeah, you just switch the x and the y, solve for the y.
switch
So you
the X
do-
and Y.
Thanks, yeah. So how would you solve this one?
Fifth root.
You got a 5th root at first. So we got a 5th root of x equaling x cubed minus 1. Then what?
Add 1.
Add 1. So then you get the 5th root of x plus 1 equals y cubed.
Oh, add 1. Okay.
Then you cube root.
And then you cube root it.
Huh.
So this one is it's a doozy, yeah. So you end up with the cube root of the 5th root of x plus 1, which cannot be simplified at all. That plus 1 makes it unsimplifiable. That's just the original function. So I went back here and looked at this and said, oh, f of x.
Wait, is that a third root or fifth?
The biggest one, so it goes the cube root of the 5th root of x plus 1.
That is
So if you
a
solve that
crazy
one, would you like
equation.
plus, minus, or indifferent?
Supposed to be able to do that.
Since both of those are odd, you don't need plus or minus,
Sure.
which was kind of nice.
Which
Okay, wow. So now we have A, B, C, D, E to do
For each.
without using a calculator.
So we only have to do
Be
number
done for
18.
the day.
Why?
Okay. Where do I write these? Okay, so I'm just gonna do it right down below. Okay,
We
so
just do one of these instead of.
sure, let's just do one. Which one do you want to do?
It's the quickest.
18.
The quickest one? Let's do 18. It's the hardest one. How about that? Okay. So we are doing this without a calculator. I really think the best way to do this is to graph it first and then do all of the A, B, C, D, E stuff. Okay. So if I have x squared, starting with x squared, what does it look like?
To the right or
Starting with
To be-
x squared. Okay. It's a parabola.
what?
X squared is a parabola. Come on, you know that.
Yeah, but there's absolute value.
Yeah, but I didn't go there yet. Okay, x squared is a parabola. If I have minus 4 at the end, then I go
Or you shifted down.
down 4.
Yeah, that's if it's
Okay, so I have a parabola that's down 4. So x squared minus 4 is,
Is this a W?
no, well, yeah, it'll look like that. So now if I take the absolute value of this piece, anything that's below the x-axis gets reflected up.
Oh,
Okay, so it's going to look like a W, so it looks like this. Okay, and up units, the y-intercept. The x-intercepts, if we find those, well, let's just go ahead and go through and do that. Well, so yeah. What are the x-intercepts? Do you guys see that? Can you look at that just mentally? If you set it equal to 0, x squared minus 4, set equal to 0.
4.
X squared minus 4 equals 0.
If you said equals 0.
2.
2, negative 2.
But the.
Right.
Why would it be?
Yeah, negative 2.
But you can still plug an x and negative in. That's why the range is all positive. Absolute value that happen. Okay, so the domain, what's the domain for this? Okay, so negative infinity to infinity. Okay, you could say all reals. Oops, I forgot to say domain. Domain. What's the range? 0. Yep, so you could say y is greater than or equal to 0, or you can say from 0 to infinity.
Intercepts.
Intercepts, okay, that should be easy just by looking at a graph. I see negative 2, 0, 4.
Sure.
C is symmetry, right? So what kind of symmetry do I have? If it doesn't ask you, you can put it either way, but if it does, then you have to do what they ask you to do.
Alright, so now we're on.
What's what?
On A.
Discuss.
D, no, that's a D for domain. And that's my parenthesis.
Oh.
Domain is from negative infinity.
Discuss
Wait,
symmetry,
domain's
so
the
just
X,
say
right?
it's symmetrical across the y-axis.
Okay. We got y-axis symmetry. So if we have y-axis symmetry, what kind of function is that?
Even.
It is an even function.
is it automatic?
Yes.
And then
Even by definition is symmetrical over the y-axis.
x-axis symmetry and then odd is
Origin, yes.
I mean, neither is origin.
Yeah.
No, odd is origin.
No, odd is origin.
And even is x?
Even is over the y.
Yeah, wait,
So think
what's
of like
x?
x
What
squared.
is symmetrical over x?
Wow.
No, that's a neither.
So we
That's
just-
neither.
That's neither.
Skip 19 through 47.
Tell, did we do all the things? Okay.
Is there any word problem?
There's no word problems.
Tomorrow's all. Or Monday.
No. So there's like 4 sections if you think about it. So there's a calculator section that has multiple choice and also free response, and then a non-calculator section that has multiple choice and free response. Yes, you still need to do 19 and 20. Do you guys want to do them together? You have to do them. You don't have to do them together. Okay, what about 21 and 22? Those are on the test. Those kind of questions. You want to go over those?
Yes.
Okay, and they're the hardest ones in my opinion. These ones that have horizontal and vertical shrinks.
Are we talking about?
Yeah. So let's do 21 and 22. I think 23 you can do on your own pretty simply. Okay, so for number 21, we have two different translations of our given function. Okay, what happens first? 1/2 times the absolute value of the f.
So first,
It's
it gets it gets small. It gets big.
Okay, so think about where the x
It
is.
gets pretty fat.
yeah, it gets
Yes.
It gets less steep. Okay,
Yeah,
so
so
but first we have to deal with the absolute value. Okay, so notice the x is inside the absolute value. We have to first start with the absolute value, which flips everything over the x-axis that was underneath. Okay, the second thing we have to deal with is then the 1/2, which is a vertical. Okay, so think of this, you guys. I would probably even write this down in your notes so you have this on Monday. Okay, there's two ways to do a shrink or a stretch. You can do it horizontally or vertically. Okay, so if you have a number on the outside, if it's a number bigger than 1, it's getting stretched out. Okay, there is a vertical stretch.
So
that'd be like steeper.
It's going this way.
If it's bigger than one.
yeah.
Bigger than 1, it's getting steeper. If it's less than 1, shrinking it down by 1/2. So if it's 1/2, shrink it by 1/2. Your vertical height. Okay. If it's inside the parentheses, like question number 22. Yeah, but I'm just explaining. I'm not doing it yet. Just explaining. So on question number 22, okay, when you do stuff inside parentheses, it's always opposite of what you think. Just like adding and subtracting. If I have x plus 2 inside the parentheses, what direction does it go? It goes to the left. Well, if I have 2 inside the parentheses, guess what happens?
it makes it.
It shrinks it, okay, by 1/2. Okay, if you had 1/2 inside the parentheses, that would pull it out.
Wait, so if it's
What about
bigger
outside?
than 1, what does it do?
Bigger than 1 is going to shrink it. So it goes closer to the y-axis, toward the y-axis.
And then what does it do if it's on the outside of the absolute value?
That's a vertical stretch.
So it pulls it like.
So if it's like 3, your height gets 3 times as high.
Oh wow.
If it's a 1/3, it would be 1/3 as high.
So if it's a half, it's a half as high.
Right.
Alright, then I have to redraw my graph.
You help me.
And we'll just do it later.
Okay, so this would be
And
a
that's it.
vertical stretch bigger than 1.
Okay, wait.
This is
Outside is
Bigger
vertical.
Outside less than 1.
Wider.
Horizontal.
Less than, yeah, horizontal.
So then
Less than 1
inside
is wider. Yep.
bigger than 1 would be what?
Smaller, like skinnier.
Like that.
Yep.
And then the last one would be less than 1.
Well, you got inside.
Inside less than 1.
No, wait. Hold on. Outside is vertical either way.
Yeah,
So
right
outside, then this would, so bigger would go steeper, smaller would get closer, so vertical. This way. Sorry, I'm not getting what you're writing. So outside is up and down. Okay, bigger is higher, less gets shorter towards the x-axis.
Okay.
Inside is a left and right. Bigger is going to go in like what you have there towards the y-axis.
Then less would be
And less
go
is going
outside.
away. This is your y-axis.
This would go out that way though, right?
Oops, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Then on the second one,
Okay.
it's just
So looking at the first point, so I'm looking at this right here, right? Okay, first point. Okay, since it's already above the x-axis, all I have to do now is do half as high. Okay, so it's going to go at 1/2 at that point. Okay, going to the next point right here. Okay, when it hits the origin, you can't make it any higher. Excuse me, when it hits the x-axis, you can't shrink it or stretch it. It's still going to hit the the y-axis, the x-axis. So that one stays exactly where it should be. Okay, now when I go to the next one, I'm looking at this spot right here. Okay, my first step is I have to reflect it over the x-axis. So now it's up at 1, and then go half as high. So I'm up at 1, now at high. Okay. This one right here. Yep. Okay, and then I go back to the origin because the origin has no reflection. Okay, so now if I look at this parabola piece, okay, it's already above the y-axis, so I don't have to reflect it. All I do now is to go half as high. So if it's up at 2, how high is it going to go? 1. So this is going to max out at 1, and then it's going to come back to the x-axis. Okay, and now looking at this piece right here.
Take off towards the sky.
Okay, remember we have to reflect it up, and then it's only half as high. It's going to be a little shorter.
Wait, so anything under the X, we just reflect.
Yep, because of the absolute value. Okay, so now let's do number 22.
Everything.
For the height, correct. Yes.
Everything.
Yes, everything. Okay, now 22, we have again two things going on. We have a 2 inside, so that's going to be closer to the y-axis. We're streaking everything closer over the top.
okay. So everything's
Closer, so it's going to be like in.
But isn't that always the truth on the outside?
Nope. 2 on the outside is vertical. A number on the outside does a vertical one. In the inside, it's horizontal.
all right.
How much is vertical double?
Wait, which one are you asking me? 22? 22 is not vertical, it's horizontal. So it'll be half as far out. So this first point, okay, so this first point, it's already positive, we're good there, but since it's at -3 on the x, we have to go out half as far. So half of 3 is 1.5. So the first one is going to be right here. The height is going to be the same, but the x value is half as far out. Okay, this point right here, that's right on the x-axis. Okay, we're good with, we're going to now make it half as far out. So if it's at 2, how far out is it going to go? Now at -1, okay? And it's already up on the x-axis, so I don't have to flip it. Okay, this one right here. Okay, now it's going to be at 1/2, and then what else do I have to do? Up 1, okay, so I have to reflect it up because of the absolute value. Okay, my origin has no translation because you can't do anything when it's there, no reflections. Okay, if we look at our parabola, my height of 2, but how far out is it going to go? 1/2. So I'm going to hit 1/2, and I'm going to come back to the x-axis right at 1. That spot right there. Okay, now this bottom half, okay, it's going to start right where my parabola ended at 1, and then what direction is it going to go? It goes up, right? Up and to the right, and I'm going to go up to 1. So it still has the same height, but it's just up. Does that one make sense? I think those are the hardest questions on this chapter.
Really?
In my opinion, yes. So are you guys good with 23? I think 23 is probably pretty simple. It just goes to the right 2 and down 2. All those points. You want me to do it? Oh, sure.
Just so we don't have like a blank spot.
Sure. Or you could just draw a quick graph. Do you want me to do it too? We'll have a race. It's not perfect, but it gets us there. All right, so we're running. We got like 10 minutes left, so let's make sure we get through all this stuff we should talk about. Okay, so these questions 24, 25, 26 are exactly the same as those other ones, but now you get to use a calculator. Do you want me to do one of those? No, I'm not going to give you the answers, so you don't have to do the problems. What about number 27? I think 27 is challenging. I think doing these on the calculator is hard. Should we do 27?
I don't even know how to use the calculator, like
Barely? So we should do 27 then?
Yeah.
Okay, so 27 and 28 are going to be done exactly the same as far as how you do it on the calculator. I always set things equal to 0. I let the 0 equal the y. So when I type this in, I'm thinking that y is greater than or equal to 3x squared minus 3x plus 1. On 28, I'm thinking y is less than the absolute value of 3x plus 5 minus 2. Okay, so that's the way I'm typing these into the calculator and then using the calculator's tools to find the zeros. So, yep, so you're finding the zeros, you're finding where the x is. It's either going to exist between the zeros or it's going to be away from the zeros, assuming there's 2. Oop, this is a 3. Nobody saw that. What's that? Yes, you flip the sign. Okay, so you type it in exactly as you see it, but obviously there's no inequality, so that's when we're going to go back and do the shading.
Yeah.
So minus 3x plus 1. Okay, so since I look at the equation, y is greater than is going to be shaded where? Above or below? Above. No?
Yeah.
And then hit enter until it's shaded above. And then just graph it, and I should see. So I'm looking at the x-axis as my value, so it exists between what x values. If you go, so on your y-axis, see where you have the cursor. If you go left until you're on that little line thing, and then hit enter until it shades above.
And then what did you say? What does it exist?
What?
Only above the x-axis.
Above, yep.
So that means -1. It's hard to see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you have to use second trace and find the zeros. So if I find that furthest one to the left,
It's -1.137.
agreed. So I would say, so since the shading is to the left of that point, my first interval for my solution would be from negative infinity to negative 1 point, what was it? 1.
Wait, what are you solving in notation? Or
Writing the answer in notation form. What was it, 3/8?
is that normally what you write this in?
Probably. You could write it in inequality notation. It's up to you.
That's just, so you just write where I change it.
Right. Oh, it was 3, 7. So change that to a 7, not an 8. Okay, and then it's hard to tell. It looks like it bounces off of the x-axis, but I'm guessing that they probably knew that was going to happen. I'm going to zoom in just a little bit because I think that it probably really goes below and actually crosses. Bubbles? Oh.
No, it doesn't bounce. It actually
I was
goes.
like, what are you talking about?
It goes under again.
It does go under, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so again, I would do second trace. I need to find the 2 places that it is shaded in between. Oh, it's so slow on this.
Right, so that,
So I got 0.395, 0.395, 0.395, 0.395.
and then how do you write that down? You just do bracket 395 and then the next.
Yep. 7422. So what was it? 0.395 to 0.722? Oh, 422. That's a 4.
That's all the far the ribs go.
That's all you have to do. So that is your answer.
Isn't there more? Isn't
Well, it's a John Travolta, so you know that it stays above. It doesn't come back down. So just be aware, when you guys are doing this, they're going to give you a question on the test that is like a quartic, so a 4th degree, and it's going to go outside your standard window. So you're going to have to know that if I have a 4th degree, that it should go up and that it should come back down. And so you need to zoom out until you see the whole graph.
You can just zoom standard for that, right?
Well, zoom out. But zoom standard is only 10 by 10.
Or
So you're
zoom
going to have
fit.
to,
They have zoom fit.
or zoom fit. Hopefully that'll work. Not necessarily. All right. I think we're out of time here, guys.
Group test.
It's an individual test there, Clint.
You still have 20 problems left. That's a lot of that I
Mhm.
don't want to do.
What is it?
This guy, basketball, just signed a $70 million deal.
7
It just shows all his bad plays.
of this guy? God, that was $70 million on it.
You gotta find the average score.
Another year of toughness for you.
Dude, are you gonna bring me that movie?
Because I never got it. I need to get it somehow.
Okay.
And I don't want to sneak into their house and get it.
Glenn.
Very happy.
Yeah. I know you have a relationship. So
hit.